Hello there! So today I'm going to be playing a game called On My Shelf, and this was created by Ian Boom. Basically, the object of this game is that I have coordinates that I will find on my shelf. For example, if I have 2, 5, I will go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be The Last Olympian. And then I tell a story about that book, and that story can be like how I discovered it, what I thought about it, what was going on while I read it, just a story involving the book, because there are always books that remind you of certain things, and I think that can be true with any book. So I've written down some random coordinates. I do have 3 bookshelves, this is not just one big one. So I'm going to do 2 on this left one, 2 on the middle one, and 2 over here. So I've picked some random coordinates, and I'm going to start over here with my first one, which is 116. I kind of let myself go pretty far with the numbers because there are a lot of books on this shelf. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have Now You See Her by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. But mostly James Patterson. We all know how I feel about this. This was, believe it or not, the first book that I ever reviewed on YouTube. I totally forgot about this. I read this in the summer of, it must have been 2012, or was it 11? No, this was the summer of 2011. Seems like so long ago. I was in Michigan when I read this, and when I go to Michigan, it's usually a pretty relaxing vacation, so I read this in 3 days. I remember I stayed up till 2 a.m. each night reading this book on vacation. I read about 100 pages a night. I usually don't read books that quickly, but I really enjoyed this one. For some reason, I always remember the house that I stayed in Michigan when I think about this book, which is not often. I did enjoy this, and it did inspire a lot of things in the How Authors Write videos. Alright, so next coordinate. What do we have? 312. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Uh-oh, we have Marked by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, first book in the House of Night series. Wow, this series for me was my life in 6th grade. I read all of these books that were out in like a month, and it is a decent series until you get to book 5 out of 12. When I stopped reading the series, the antagonist was a bird. Some other stuff was going on, but there were like bird people happening. This is a vampire book, and they got bored. I remember it was like really witty dialogue, but this series brings me back to 6th grade. In 6th grade, I was homeschooled, so my friends were books. Still true, but like all I did was read, and when I discovered this series, it made me really happy for some reason. So that's a nice flashback. This is going well so far. Alright, I'm gonna move to the middle shelf now, and my first coordinate is 2, 1. So that would be, oh, the Lightning Thief. Alright, this one's going all the way back to 3rd grade. Wow, maybe 2nd grade, I don't know. I started reading these like as they came out, 2005. But I remember when I first saw this book in bookstores, I'd never heard of Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson was not the phenomenon that it is now. And when I bought this book, it did not look like this. In fact, it looked like this. Why I wanted to pick this up, I don't know. This is one of the few books that I've read twice, but I remember this cover freaked me out, and I was so glad when I saw that there was a different cover. I'm pretty sure this was like the bargain cover or something. I got this for like $7. And then I won some writing contest through Barnes & Noble, and you could get a free book, so I decided to get the paperback of The Lightning Thief. So then I had this on the shelf. And then it bothered me that I had this, and then all of the other hardcovers. So I decided to purchase a 3rd copy of The Lightning Thief. So I got 3 copies of The Lightning Thief here, and a small book buying problem. But anyway, I think we all know how I feel about this series. This was really one of the first series that I waited a year for every book, and it's so bittersweet now that this year the final book of Percy Jackson is coming. I could give you a story for all 9 of these books here. The Percy Jackson series will always have a special place in my heart. So, next coordinate. 4, 1. 1, 2, 3. Skipping the DVDs. Twilight. Good times. Good times. So, Twilight's got quite the story, too. I read this whole series back in the 5th grade, and I was known in 5th grade as Twi-Guy. I realize now that they didn't actually think it was cool, but they were making fun of me, and I'm okay with it. This is like making me blush, because I had so many Twilight posters and Harry Potter posters, but Twilight like joined my obsessions all over the wall. I have things highlighted in here. I have the 3 things are true line highlighted in Twilight. Okay, I was there for all the movies. I mean, I did follow Twilight. I don't hate Twilight. I'm over it, but I don't dislike it. Let's move on to this final shelf. I have 2 more coordinates, and the first one is 114. 12, 13, 14. Yes! This is the 3rd book in the Maximum Ride series, Saving the World and Other Extreme Sports. This was my favorite book of the series. Towards the end of the series, we know it got pretty bad, but the first 3 books were epic and I loved them. I think this is one of the things that got me into BookTube, because I remember I finished Angel and Nevermore had like a year to come out, so I started watching YouTube videos of Maximum Ride, and that's how I found Cass J. Tuck, and she is one of the people who inspired me to start booktubing. So this was like 3 years ago too. But I really enjoyed reading this series. It was decent, but I really just loved how action-packed, fast-paced it was. I got really attached to the characters. I loved this book. Alright, final coordinate. We have 3, 22. Do I have 22 books on one shelf? Yeah, I probably do. 19, 20, 21, 22. Our final book is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I'm really happy this is the last one. It's signed inside, it says, "For Tiernan, stay peculiar." And then in Hollow City, he signed, "For Tiernan, YouTuber extraordinaire." So, I read this book the November after it came out, and then I waited for like 2 years with everyone else. It was a painful wait for the sequel because this book was so unique and it was beautifully written. And I absolutely loved how he introduced everything, and I loved the vintage photography in it. And I was lucky enough to interview Ransom Riggs this year. He was the first author that I interviewed, and that was really cool. So you can find that video, I'll leave it in the description if you haven't seen it. But because of that, this book has a special place for me. Also because it was just awesome. So that concludes On My Shelf. I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed doing this. If you're interested in doing this tag, I tag you. You definitely should. So I think that's it. I will see you next time, and goodbye.